on today's episode of Everyday Life with Becca. Hello. So this is pretty late in the evening for me to record a video because I was in two minds whether to talk about this because it might make me sound a little bit more bonkers than I actually am. But so I'll set the scene for you. Today was just any ordinary day for me. Same routine, same rituals, that type of stuff. When I say rituals, I mean, you know, like getting up, making coffee, getting dressed, all that type of stuff. Taking the dogs out for a walk. Now this is where it gets interesting. And I have thought to myself, was I hallucinating? Had my nighttime meds not quite worn off? So I did look at this incident from every logical angle that I possibly could. After it happened, we came back in, kind of in like a state of, did that really just happen? So I come back in with the dogs and I make myself a coffee and I sit down and I look out of my window and then I look back to my coffee and I just sat for about 20 minutes. If somebody could have looked at me, I would probably have had my chin on the floor and my mouth wide open, trying to make some kind of sense out of what had just happened. So I'll take you back. We got into the woods and the dogs were sniffing and doing their thing. And then we've been in there about 10 minutes because I kind of just let them sniff. It's their time, you know, and it's nice in there and it was a warm day, so I quite happily just stand there whilst they sniff. So out of the corner of my eye, something came into my field of view and I thought maybe it was a bird or something like that, so I didn't take any notice. It was just like a movement. Well, then it happened again, a little bit towards more of my front, sorry, I'm holding the thing, of my front vision. So I looked round. And in the tree, fairly high up, there was something that I could only describe as being like a shimmer. Like if you're looking onto a pool of water that is moving, you know, that shimmery type. If you see a pattern on the wall, a reflection of water, that's what I saw up in the tree. And I stared, thinking, you know, checking my glasses, checking my eyes. And in the tree, there was like this shimmer, like water shimmering on this tree. And as I stared at this thing, it then moved into another tree, but it kind of went into like an elongated shape and then moved in to the next tree. Now, if you're looking up, the treetops are fairly close together because they've grown up fairly tall with a lot of their leaves more directed towards the top end. And when it moved over to the other tree, it was slightly behind some of the branches. Now, this is how I knew that it wasn't an optical illusion, because the tree branch way up there was actually in front of it. So it separated it. It was behind it. That's the word that I'm looking for. It was behind it. So at this point, I started to get a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. Now, Louis and Mabel had stopped sniffing at this point. Now, I don't know how many of you are dog owners, but these two have got a very specific kind of, not a bark, but when they see something or they know something's around that they don't like. And I'm going to demonstrate, but, so don't laugh, but it's like a... They started doing that. They both started doing that, which made me even more afraid. So there was no way I was going to go forward, and I was keeping my eye on this shimmer in the tree. Now, you're probably looking at this and you're probably thinking, oh, Becca, you've lost it. You have lost the plot. So instead of going my normal route, I just had this overwhelming feeling that I needed to leave. So I tugged on Louis and Mabel, who were still doing this type thing, and I pulled them. They didn't want to go, but I pulled them, and we started to walk out of the wood back onto the lane. And as we got to the lane, I kind of looked back, and it was further away now, and there were more trees in front of it, but it was still freaking there. So once we got onto the lane, we started to walk, and then I heard like this, when trees blow excessively in the wind and they kind of snap back and forth, I heard that sound. And as we were walking along the path, I could still see quite clearly through the wood to these two trees where I'd seen it, and it had gone. So all the way home, which wasn't far, as you know, it's the woodlands right outside my window. All the way home, I was walking as if I'd just witnessed a nasty accident or something. You know what I mean? That kind of feeling. Like I'd just witnessed a nasty accident, and I was kind of shell-shocked, really. Like that feeling that you get, you can't believe what you've seen. And it's so traumatizing that there's just no words for it. So I think that's why when I came home and I made my coffee, I sat there for a good 20 minutes, not moving or anything, just sat there trying to process the events that had unfolded. And I can't for the life of me think what in the hell that was. The only time, and I've spent the afternoon looking at research and things like that, and the only occasion that I've found which somebody very similar had a very similar experience was on a documentary by I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Robert Paulides. He's done the Missing 401 documentaries, and he did one called Missing 401, The Hunted or The Hunters. It was all about hunters that have disappeared out in the woods, national forests, that type of thing. And they interviewed one lady who had quite a lot of acreage of forested land, and in her land she had a watch out constructed in the treetop. So I think the idea is that you go, I don't really know much about hunting, but you climb up this thing and then you have a good vantage point to look out for prey, I guess. She was looking for deer. And she described that when she was in her, I wish I knew the correct word, but when she was in her hideout, just say, that she had spotted something that looked like liquid. She described it as liquid, that looked like liquid in a tree. And she tried to take a photograph of it with her mobile phone, but it didn't capture it on her mobile phone. But she described seeing this liquid thing moving in the top of a tree. Now, she didn't wait. She didn't wait and stand there like a mug like I did. She got down from her hide and hightailed it back home. But what she describes is quite interesting, and this is where I think it's similar. When she'd got back home, she never mentioned it to anybody, and she'd got her children, her adult children, coming round for a meal that afternoon because it was a Saturday afternoon. And she said everybody at the table were chatting about their normal things. And she said it almost like I'd forgotten what had happened. And then somebody said something at the table and she instantly put her knife and fork down and said, something happened to me today. I saw this thing. And it was almost like she said it had been wiped from her memory, but it hadn't, because she was sat there at the table thoughtful, you know, going through her mind, not really present, but going, you know, and that moment that snapped her out of it, she just came blurting out that this thing had happened to her. So that's the only thing that I've been able to find of anybody that has seen anything similar. Now, I'm a kind of, I would say, open-minded type of person, but I'm also quite skeptical about these type of things. So the logic part of my brain thinks, well, it was a hot day, you know, it could have been some kind of optical illusion. It could have been a swarm of small flies is another thing that I thought that maybe gave that illusion of being like shimmering type, fluid type thing. So I've kind of looked at every possible angle and I really haven't come to any one particular conclusion. I don't know what it was that I saw. I don't know for sure that it was anything supernatural. I don't know for sure that it wasn't anything environmental, you know, in other words, something to do with the area and the humidity, maybe, because it was 85% humidity today. I checked on the weather thing. So really, really interesting. But I must admit, at the time, I was quite afraid. I'm not going to lie. And what sealed the deal for me is when Louis and Mabel, they weren't looking up, interestingly enough. They weren't looking up. They were looking around. Their little ears went back. And like I said, they were making this sort of boo, boo noise. So, and they were on high alert. So they knew something was around, but they didn't look up. But that was the sealed the deal for me. And I said, right, come on, let's back out and we'll go and walk back towards the lane. And I'm definitely not mad that I made that decision. Whatever that was, I wasn't going to stand around and put myself and my 2 babies in danger because of it. So it's kind of left me with a really odd feeling. And like I said, I wasn't sure even that I would make a post about this, because quite frankly, if I was listening to something, I would think this person had got a screw loose or gone slightly bonkers. But that was my experience today. It was surreal. No idea what it was. If you've got any suggestions or anything similar that's ever happened to you, I would be really, really interested to know if you've seen anything similar to this and how you felt during it and how you felt afterwards. You know, did you get home and sit there almost like in a state of shock? Which I think I was, because I didn't move. Got my coffee, 20 minutes passed at least, and I didn't move. Just sat there staring and, you know. So anyway, I thought I'll leave that there and let me know what you think. Like I said, have you seen anything similar, or do you have any suggestions about what it could be? Anyway, this Looney Tunes is going to get off now, and I'll post this video, and yeah, this was my day. Not an average day for me. Definitely not. And one I don't really want to have again, if that makes sense. Quite happy with my mundane, everyday life. Thank you.